Well, Iran downplaying the Israeli airstrike that was in retaliation to Iran's missile barrage back on October 1. At that time, Israel said its air defenses took out most of the missiles, and right now it appears that both sides are, as Pippa intimated, trying to retaliate and save face without the situation escalating into a full-blown war. So is this removing a major overhang from markets, whether petroleum markets, equity markets, or more? Let's speak with Michael O'Hanlon, Director of Research for Foreign Policy at Brookings Institution. Michael, welcome. Good to have you with us. Do you view this, as so many in the press are, as a kind of muted response on the part of Israel and an effort, based on what we've heard out of Tehran and Tel Aviv, to de-escalate things?
Greetings. Well, I certainly do view it that way. In fact, I thought there was a possibility that Israel would use this opportunity even to go after Iran's nuclear infrastructure. That would have been a stretch and obviously extraordinarily escalatory. But if Israel is just trying to say, as I think they have with the killings of Nasrallah, for example, that we can't play by the old rules because we thought there was going to be restraint from the old actors, and apparently there is no restraint. I thought there was a decent chance that Israel would say, let's go for the nuke program, because we know that Iran rejects our right to exist, and they're encouraging Hamas and Hezbollah to in such ridiculous ways. So I thought at least Israel would go after some economic targets, and I'm gratified they have not.
How instrumental, if at all, do you believe the Biden administration was in causing the response to be calibrated the way it was?
Absolutely crucial. I think that perhaps there were Israelis who preferred the more restrained approach themselves. But from all we can gather from the outside, there were a lot of consultations about this. And we certainly did, as you've been reporting, hear a lot of discussion about attacks on oil infrastructure and other ways in which the ante could have been increased quite a bit. Mm-hmm. So I think the fact that we have maybe some power of persuasion, but also considerable security, leverage with Israel, and needed to be involved perhaps in at least helping them prepare for a retaliation against this attack or after this attack. I think these were crucial elements of Israel deciding to do what it did and not do what it didn't do.
Restraint vis-a-vis Iran is one thing, but it does not, does it, imply restraint vis-a-vis Hezbollah or Hamas at all? Do you feel as though Israel's ultimate goal with respect to either of those terrorist organizations is that they surrender?
It's an excellent question. I think that the answer may be slightly different with Hezbollah and Hamas. Of course, Hezbollah is seen as a mortal enemy, and that's why he killed Nasrallah. But also, I think, Hezbollah is part of the Lebanese government, in effect. It has a certain desire itself not to see this thing blow up into apocalyptic proportions, not to see another all-out Israeli invasion of their country. And there's a decent chance that as the new leadership reconstructs itself in Hezbollah, that they will decide to de-escalate the attacks on northern Israel, which in turn will allow people to move back, which in turn could lead to an end to this phase of the fighting. But I think with Hamas, Israel wants it not only to be willing to negotiate a ceasefire, but essentially wants it to be broken into little bits and pieces and thoroughly emasculated, if not destroyed. So I would not be surprised to see that war continue on a fair amount.
What is or what should be the plan for Gaza at this point, Michael, at what might be the conclusion of the war, or in order to attain the conclusion of the war, as there's been talk of Israeli settlements there now?
Yeah, I think that's a non-starter, but I realize I say that from an American perspective, and Israeli politics have shifted a lot since last October for understandable reasons. But I think the United States needs to do what it's been doing even when it's not working. In other words, keep pushing for the two-state solution, not only with Gaza, but someday with the West Bank. Remind Israelis we see no other plausible path to peace, and remind Israelis that as friends, we are prepared sometimes to use a little friendly leverage in this negotiation, not to give them an ultimatum. And I don't see an immediate way to create that new kind of a Palestinian authority, if you will, for Gaza. But that has to be the solution. There really is no other way. The last point I would add is, should the United States be willing to join a multilateral security force helping patrol Gaza? We're a long ways away from that, but it may need to be on the next president's agenda as well.